Hello friends, welcome back to Technique, and today we'll be doing a camera comparison of two flagship devices. We have the Vivo X100 with us and we also have the iQOO 12. So when we did the speeders comparison, a lot of you have asked us to do this camera comparison, but of course the camera comparison does take a while to analyze. So now we have the cameras compared, the Vivo X100 again with a triple camera setup and comparing with another triple camera setup with a really good periscope lens, the iQOO 12. So let's go deep into the camera samples and let's see which of these performs better and which is the better camera in this price segment. So before going into the video, if this is your first time on this channel, do hit that red subscribe button and also hit the bell icon to get notified of all the videos we publish. Now before going into the camera comparison, let's have a look at the camera hardware of these two devices. So let's first have a look at the Vivo X100. Now the Vivo X100 comes with a primary Sony IMX920 50 megapixel sensor with f1.57 aperture and Zeiss optical precision calibration and optical image stabilization. The secondary camera is a Zeiss telephoto lens. It's the OmniVision sensor and it has f2.54 aperture with up to 3x optical zoom. Now the third camera is an ultra wide angle camera with its JN1 sensor with f2.0 aperture. Now the front camera on the Vivo X100 is a 32 megapixel shooter. Now next let's go to the iQOO 12. Now iQOO 12 also has a similar camera setup, so let's first have a look at the hardware offered. Now the iQOO 12 has a primary 50 megapixel camera. It's an OmniVision sensor and it has f1.68 aperture. The secondary is an ultra wide angle camera which is a 50 megapixel shooter, f2.0 aperture, and then you also have a third 64 megapixel periscope telephoto lens with f2.54 aperture, and you also get optical image stabilization. Now the front camera is a 16 megapixel shooter with f2.45 aperture. So that is the camera hardware of these two devices. Really good in terms of hardware. You also get periscope lens for portrait and other aspects on both the devices. Now both of these devices have 4K support. A lot of features are similar, but there are a lot of differences as well. So let's see how they perform in terms of camera experience. So let's first have a look at the daylight captures. So looking at the daylight captures, you can see that both the devices offers very similar color reproduction and the details are very good, and it's quite similar as well. You can see the sky tones are also rendered very similarly. So there isn't much to differentiate. We have used the natural color, Zeiss natural color on Vivo X100, and also the iQOO 12 also uses the natural color. But what you can see is that the Vivo X100 has a slightly richer tone or vibrant tone, while the iQOO 12 has a more natural looking tone. So if you are more into social sharing, Vivo's algorithm might work better. Here also you can see that the sky colors are a bit more richer in colors, and while the iQOO was a bit more natural looking. Once again you can see that the tree colors, the greens are rendered a bit richer on the Vivo X100. The dynamic range is also very good on both the devices and does a really great job here. Now when it comes to ultra wide angle camera, again there isn't much to differentiate. Almost very similar in terms of performance, the sharpness levels, details, and even the dynamic range also looks good. And overall I would say the quality is not much of a difference in terms of ultra wide. Coming to the telephoto lens, the 3x optical zoom, we feel the colors are quite similar and details are also pretty good, but we feel iQOO 12 has a slight advantage in terms of the telephoto lens. Although both are 64 megapixel shooters, we feel iQOO did have a slight advantage in terms of overall details and clarity. So that was the telephoto lens. Now moving on to the close-up shots, once again you can see here very similar in details and sharpness levels. iQOO's close-up shots were slightly contrasty, but we've also did a quite good job overall. So there isn't much to differentiate here. Once again you can see there is in terms of macro photography, both did a quite similar job with the 3x telephoto lens. So that's the macro photography. Now moving on to the portraits. So this is one area where we feel there is a difference. The Vivo's portrait algorithm is definitely better, especially the skin tones looks more natural, while the iQOO 12 has a bit more whitening effect. It's not exactly natural, and the amount of options you get with the Vivo's algorithm is plenty. There are different Zeiss options available, Zeiss portrait modes available. You can also play around with different lens settings or focal length. So there are plenty of options available. So Vivo is definitely a more versatile portrait photography camera than the iQOO 12. So in terms of portrait experience, definitely both the devices did did quite well in terms of edge detection, but the overall portrait champion was the Vivo X100. Now let's move on to the low light experience. Here in terms of indoor lighting condition, very similar results. The Vivo did have a slightly yellowish tone, but when it comes to outdoor shots, you can see that the sky colors have slight differentiate experience in terms of the color rendering, but overall we feel both did a quite good job here in terms of low light experience. But once again, if you look closer in terms of low light experience, the Vivo X100 did a better job here in terms of captures. The more detailed and more or rather better dynamic range was exhibited on the Vivo X100. So definitely the night mode performance is better on the Vivo X100. In terms of telephoto lens, you can see here both did a quite good job, but once again the low light photography in the telephoto lens was better on the Vivo X100 when compared to the iQOO 12. So once again Vivo does a better job here. Now when it comes to the ultra wide angle camera, very similar results and nothing much to differentiate between the two devices. Now moving on to the selfies, once again there isn't much of difference here, but the skin tones on the Vivo X100 was a tad better than the iQOO 12, but not by a huge margin. Also selfies are more of a personal choice. So what do you guys think about the selfie camera? Now portrait selfies also turned out to be pretty good on both the devices. Do let us know which selfie camera you like the most. Now moving on to the video recording, you can see that both the devices can record 4K 60 FPS. In fact, iQOO can do up to 8K recording, but there isn't much of a difference in terms of video recording. Exact similar recording, both are rich in colors. The stabilization works pretty well. The dynamic range also looks great, but iQOO did have a slight advantage in terms of overall quality, but nevertheless both of them did a pretty good job. Now 1080p at 60 FPS also looks pretty much similar. The colors are also very similar. Again, the stabilization works really well. Both are optically made stabilization plus EIS included, so both of them does a pretty good job in terms of performance. Now in terms of color reproduction, there is a slight difference. The iQOO is slightly richer in tone, but the Vivo is quite natural here. But overall we feel both the devices did a pretty good job here. Now when it comes to telephoto, this is one area once again the iQOO was slightly better overall. You can see that the sharpness levels of the telephoto lens is better on the iQOO when compared to the Vivo X100. So telephoto is definitely one of the strong aspects of the iQOO 12. So that was the telephoto camera. Now when it comes to ultra wide angle camera, you can see there is a difference in colors. The Vivo has same colors and richer colors as the primary camera, but iQOO has a slightly different tone here, slightly muted or a bit more natural looking tone here. So that's the ultra wide angle camera. So this is the front facing camera sample taken with the Vivo X90. It can record videos in 1080p 60 fps. That's the maximum resolution supported. So you can judge yourself how good the clarity of the videos and also the audio output. So this is the front facing camera sample taken with the iQOO 12, and this camera can take only videos in 1080p at 30 fps. There is no support for 4K nor 1080p 60 fps. So you can judge yourself how good the clarity of the video is. So summing up, which of these devices is better in terms of camera? So both of these devices are pretty much similar in terms of daylight performance, even ultra wide angle camera, telephoto also very similar. But when it comes to portrait, that's where the major difference comes in. Here we would say the Vivo's algorithm was much better. There are plenty of Zeiss portrait modes available, and also you get a different focal length to play around. So in terms of portraits, the Vivo X100 is more versatile camera. In terms of low light experience also, the Vivo X100 was a better option here. When it comes to selfies, both are quite similar. Again, Vivo did have a slight advantage, and in terms of video recording, both the devices once again was quite similar. So if I were to pick a winner in terms of purely on the camera aspect, then probably that would be the Vivo X100 for a more versatile camera. But if you are in a tight budget and you want a really good camera, the iQOO 12 is the perfect choice here. But if you have money, definitely the Vivo X100 would be the better camera out there. So that was the camera comparison of these two devices. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Do hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in our next video. Have a great day.